Welcome to the Victory Podcast. I'm your co-host, Steve McGrath, alongside, as always, my co-host, Chris Haddad. And today, we have a very special guest. We have a member of the New England Patriots with us, number 41 on the field, number one in your hearts, Cyrus Jones. Cyrus, thank you for coming on with us this morning.
I appreciate y'all having me on, man. My pleasure.
For those of you who don't know Cyrus, he, in 2012, began his collegiate career at Alabama. He was there all the way through 2016, and along the way picked up a defensive MVP of the Cotton Bowl in 15, won a college championship under Coach Saban, parlayed that into getting drafted in the second round, number 60 overall by the New England Patriots. He's been there ever since, about to enter his third year on the team, and of course it means he has a Super Bowl under his belt as well. So the man has a little bit of football experience. So Cyrus, right off the bat here, the first thing that we wanted to ask you was just if we could rewind a little bit to when you were 18 years old. You're a highly sought-after recruit coming out of Maryland. What was it like for you, and ultimately, how did Alabama emerge as the school that you were going to go with?
Going back to that experience, I can just tell you it was a whirlwind pretty much. I mean, everybody tells you once you're going through that process, getting recruited is a once-in-a-lifetime thing, and just embrace it. But, there's so much going on. It's hard to, really, appreciate everything that's coming at you just because it's so crazy. I mean, you're dealing with coaches, you going on the road, visiting schools, playing, 3 sports in school, still trying to keep your grades up and all this type of stuff. Because, without that, you wouldn't be in the position that you're in. So, it was great, but it was stressful, definitely. And just gaining those connections and, taking a liking to certain schools you went to, and then being told, coming down to the reality, you can only choose one. So it was kind of like you got to keep that balance of, not getting too caught up in the emotions and understand that it's going to be a life-changing decision that you're about to make, and you want to make the best one. So just leaning on, the people that's around you. First, it was my parents, coaches that I was close to, and just guys I had known that already had gone through the recruiting process. So I had a lot of help, which made it easier, but it was definitely a stressful thing. But I was grateful to go through it. I mean, I would rather have that than, not have any opportunities at all. So, because I've seen guys go take the long road, so I was fortunate I didn't have to. But when it came down to it, I had a 50-plus scholarship offers, but, my top 3 came down to Virginia Tech, Ohio State, and Bama. And, I took a visit to Ohio State the summer of my junior year, going into my junior year, as well as Alabama, just kind of on just a little recruiting trip or whatever. And I like both of those schools a lot. When I went up to Ohio State, Jim Tressel was still there right before all the scandals and stuff had happened. So, I really liked them. And I went down to A-Day that same spring, and I just fell in love with Alabama, right off the bat. You see him on TV, see Coach Saban, he's probably was the most popular coach still at the time in college football. They were just coming off a national championship, so they had all the hype surrounding them over any school in the country, as they should have. So just getting down there, being around that type of atmosphere, it didn't seem like I was on a college campus or around a college football team at all. It was like the mini pros. That's what I felt like. It's a different feeling when you go down there, and I was attracted to that. And from that point on, I hadn't even started my season yet, my senior season, and I was pretty much if the rest of the visits I take, if it doesn't match up to this, then it's a no-brainer. I pretty much had already knew where I wanted to go, and that's no disrespect to any of the other schools that would recruit me, but it was just I couldn't pass up that opportunity. So that's what it came down to.
Sure.
Yep. So, Cyrus, you get to Alabama and you go as a wide receiver. I don't think many people know that. You start off as a wide receiver, and then how'd that process go? Did Saban ask you, hey, can you move to defensive back for us? Or was it a decision you kind of wanted to make on your own because the wide receiver?
How'd that process go? A little bit of both. So, yeah, I went down there my freshman year as a wide receiver, you know, because I was getting recruited as an athlete. So a lot of schools were letting me decide, you know, where I wanted to play. And high school, you know, I was pretty dynamic with the ball in my hand, and I liked having the ball in my hand. Not that I didn't like defense or whatever, but I just felt like I was just a special player with the ball in my hand. So I wanted to, you know, showcase that, and I felt like I could maximize that at the next level. So when I got to Bama, I played receiver, and I did all right, you know. But we had a bunch of older guys that were already down there, established and everything. So I think I wasn't really a polished receiver. I was still learning the position, even though, you know, I was explosive and had all these skills that I was just blessed with, but I didn't really know the position. So it was a kind of a transition for me, and like I got a lot of opportunities on special teams, punt return, kick return, things like that. So I mean, I still got a chance to get my feet wet and get some good game experience, but and we won the national championship that year, beating Notre Dame.
Yep.
So that was cool just to be around that. But at the end of that year, we were losing a few veteran corners. D. Milner being one of those guys, premier name, one of the best corners to come out at that time. And Coach had set me down. It was right before spring practice, probably like a week or two before spring practice was getting ready to start up. And obviously, the DBs are his babies.
Yeah.
So when he was recruiting me, that's what he wanted me to play. Like, even though he wouldn't really pressure me into, you know, saying that or being like, you know, when you come, I want you to play DB. Like, it's
exactly.
DB. Yep. He still gave me that opportunity, which I respect. And he was just basically like, I mean, we losing some guys, and I know you can do it. And I think you would be great for us over there. But ultimately, like I told you before, I recruited you, like, it'll be your decision. Like, so it was strictly like it started off as an experimental project. Like, it wasn't no set in stone thing. Like, I was going to go over there for the springtime, see how I went. And if it didn't go well, then I was going to go back to offense. So I agreed. And I was like, you know, any way I can help the team, you know, and if it's going to help me get on the field and make an impact quicker, then I'm all for it.
Exactly. And that's the part two of that question was, what was it like mindset-wise where you already your freshman year at wide receiver. Now you got to go against the freshman class that you came in with, and then the freshman class that coming in the next year that you got to compete with, right? Which are obviously highly recruited guys as well. What was that like coming in? Was that spring that advantage that you had because that freshman class wasn't there yet?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm super competitive. I mean, that's probably my biggest trait. I mean, I'm also laid back, so people really wouldn't know until, like, I'm a whole different person on the field. So I mean, I think that played into my advantage. You know, I didn't really look at it as me going in at a disadvantage because I had spent a year on offense. I took it as a challenge. I was like, you know, I'm a smart guy. Like, I know the game. I know I can pick up the defense pretty quick and just go out there and compete. And that's what I did. You know, I found myself, like, sooner than later taking reps with the ones, like during that spring, and which was a pretty good sign, you know. And I just rode that wave throughout and did pretty well in the spring game. Had a few hiccups, but I mean, that was my first year playing a position at that level after not playing it for a whole year.
Yep.
So I felt pretty good about it, and got some opportunities to start pretty good amount of games during my sophomore year. You know, had my ups and downs, growing pains, whatever you call it. But I think that's what I needed to, you know, just pretty much like realize that I'm a defensive player now. This is what I'm doing. Like, and going into that next spring, I just, you know, try to perfect my craft as best as possible. Use what I learned my sophomore year, going up against guys like Mike Evans, who was a man child at that time,
exactly,
and just get better through that off season. And my junior season was one of the best I had there.
Yeah. So, and to touch on that too, when did you know? Was that junior season? Like, when did you know you were prepped for the league? Was it your junior season? You were like, okay, hey, I could probably do this, like at the next level, right? Or was it into that sophomore year where like you're starting to get comfortable position? It's like, hey, this might be a future for me. Like, when was that point where it was like that aha moment of all right, hey, I'm prepped for the league?
Let me see.
Or was there one?
I mean, it might sound crazy, but I mean, I always knew I had what it take to be playing in the league, whether it was on offense, defense, whatever. I knew I just had to get up, just keep getting better and be patient and not get too, caught up in the hype and just, work hard. I mean, everything else would take care of itself after that. But I think, after that first game, my junior season against West Virginia, we played in, I think it was the Chick-fil-A kickoff classic or something like that in Atlanta. And I had a pretty good game. And that gave me confidence going into every other game after that. And I just tried to stay consistent during the season, not do too much, just do my job and focus on what I had, learned from my coaches and everything, and just go out there and ball and make plays the best I could. And, I made all SEC that season. And after that, I was like, the ball's in my court now. Like, it's up to me. Like, I already made a name for myself. Now it's just, coming in for this last season and staying consistent and getting even better.
Exactly. And just one last thing here before I'll let Steve dive in. Why, in your opinion, do you think Nick Saban's teams are always at the top? Is there something that sticks out, just talking to maybe your friends on different teams or coming through the process? Why is Saban's teams always at the top consistently year after year?
I mean, one is recruiting.
Yep.
We always get the damn near the best guys.
Cream of the crop, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, it starts with that. And then once they get there, I mean, they do a great job of, setting the standard for what's expected, across the board at every coach, every position. Everybody's on the same accord and working towards the same goal. And I think at BAM, it's always a great leadership from the older guys in the locker room. A lot that you don't see at other places. Just, bringing the younger guys along, leading by example, and just letting those guys know that come in, like, this is what we about, this is how we do things here, and if you're not going to do it that way, then you need to find somewhere else to play. Because I mean, when you walk in this locker room, it's either natty or it's a failure, and that's how we approached everything. You know what I'm saying? Like, we knew we were going to be playing at the end of the year and have an opportunity to win a national championship, and that's what drove us each and every day at practice, workouts, and everything. So I think it's just a well-oiled machine down there. They got the formula. So I mean, as long as I feel like he's down there at the helm and still running things with the type of demand for excellence that he always has, I mean, I think it's just going to keep on going.
Yeah, train's going to keep rolling, sure.
Yeah.
So, Cyrus, you're able to win the national title. You transition to defensive back, and you don't just transition. You're one of the best in the country, because otherwise you wouldn't be getting drafted in the second round of the draft. So I just wanted to ask, do you have an interesting draft day story? Did you have anything going on, plans with family, friends, or were you just hanging out? If you just walk us through what that was like for you.
So draft day, I mean, so I pretty much knew everything I was hearing from scouts and my agent and everything like that. I knew I had a chance to go late first round to second and beyond, which I was hoping, first or second. So I planned, it was the second day of the draft. I had planned like a little get together with like my close friends and family at this local bowling alley downtown in Baltimore, and just had a little get together, nothing crazy. And they had the draft plan, so that was great too. And I remember it was 3 teams that I knew that really liked me. It was the Ravens. Obviously, I'm from Baltimore. I had connections there. I knew the Steelers liked me, and I knew the Patriots liked me, and I knew Coach Belichick was like this with Saban. So, I mean, I knew that kind of connection. A lot of things were going through my mind. So, in my mind, that made sense. So when the Ravens didn't pick me, I was kind of shocked, actually, a little disappointed. But I was like, all right. I think the Steelers thing had kind of like drifted away because they had took Artie Burns in the first round.
Yep.
So I was like, I'm probably not gonna go there. So when they picked, I was like, all right, that's done. And then whoever else in between them picking and the pass picking, it was just a blur. And I remember having to use the bathroom. It was at like pick, I want to say 57 or 58. So I went to the bathroom. One of my close friends had to use the bathroom too, so we walked in there and was just like, we did what we had to do and was just talking like before we walked back out. And was like, yo, this is about to happen. Like, I can feel it. Like, I was like, Patriots coming up at 60. I was like, how much you want? But they picked me. So we walk back out, and I go sit down at the table with the rest of my family. Because at this time we had stopped bowling and everything else. We had been there for a while. And I just sat my phone face up right next to me on the table. And I was looking at the screen. Pick 59 had gotten chosen. Richard Seymour was walking to the podium. And my phone started ringing. It was a 508 number. And I had recognized it, it said Foxborough. I was like, oh my God. I just raised my phone. I was like, everybody be quiet. And I was like, it's happening. I was like, I picked up the phone. Coach Belichick wasn't the one who called originally. I can't remember exactly who it was. It was one of the people in the office. But they were like, congratulations, you've been blah, blah, blah. Here's Coach Belichick. He got on, congratulated me, told me he was excited to have me. And then I talked to Mr. Kraft, which was crazy. And I just remember him was like, happy to have you. And he was like, I heard you return punts too. Can't wait to have another Bama guy up here in blue and red. So, that was pretty cool. And after that, man, it was just a blur. Like that night, it was a great night. I felt like I had reached my dream. And was just at that point, after I got off the phone, was just ready to celebrate and enjoy it with my family. So
I can imagine.
Yeah,
no, there's obviously a bunch we want to get into with your time at the Patriots, but just first, you get drafted, and right off the bat, rookie season, you guys win the Super Bowl. Just what was it like for you? Something that guys spend their entire careers trying to chase. First season, right out the gate, you get one. Just walk us through what that experience was like.
I mean, not to be a Debbie Downer, but I mean, my rookie season wasn't really a fun time for me personally. I mean, I was blessed to, be a part of that team and get a chance to say I got a Super Bowl, which was cool. But, I'm just such a competitor. Like, I just felt like that wasn't my Super Bowl I won. I wasn't a part of that just because I felt like I just didn't perform like I won how I expected, how I intended, how, I feel like I should have for whatever reason, that's in the past. But, just going back to that time, it just wasn't a happy one for me. Like it was one of those, like I was at the Super Bowl, but it was like I was like in a whole different world, like honestly. Like I was just going through the motions, around. Like, I mean, like you said, I mean, you have those moments where you're optimistic and you're just grateful and you're like, I'm like, I had my family there. and they know me, so they're like we know that you feel like your rookie season was a failure, so on and so forth. But just take a minute to, be thankful. I mean, I'm a kid from Baltimore. Like, everybody doesn't come out of there successful.
Exactly. Yep.
And, I had beat the odds already, just by going to college and doing the things I did and having a chance to even be here. So I just had to look at it in that aspect. But, it was definitely when the confetti came down and time ran out and just watching that comeback, I completely forgot, about my rookie season for a good little minute. And it was just great to, see those guys that worked so hard and to make that happen and stay resilient throughout all the adversity throughout that game and put a great cap on a great season. So it was definitely a proud moment, just to be around them and embrace that. And, it's something I'll never forget, regardless of my contributions that year. So I'll always be thankful.
Yeah, and the competitor in you, I'm sure, is dying to get out there, and I'm sure that's fueling the fire for the next season as well. So,
Yeah.
so next season comes, and we have a horrific knee injury or ACL tear, and I'm sure all the emotions in the Super Bowl, and then you get to that, and that's kind of taking you back as well. I coach high school right near Foxborough, and I had a kid who went through an ACL tear as well. And what advice would you give to a younger kid or someone who's going through something like that, where you work so hard all off season and just in a minute it's gone? And I know you play at a higher level, so it's a little bit different from you because it's how you get paid, right? It's how you live. But what advice would you give to a younger kid who's going through something like this to stay positive and to stay on track with the physical therapy?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's I would say with the injury, it's more mental than anything. Like, it's just medical technology is so advanced these days. Like, you might as well call it ACL tear a bad ankle sprain. Honestly, I mean, it's a serious injury, but they're so good at repairing it now. It's just a recovery that sucks, and just the long process to be able to get back to, being an athlete at whatever level. Because I mean, if you just a regular person walking around, you don't play sports, like, you don't have to go through that rigorous type of rehab and stuff like that. So throughout that process, you're gonna have your ups and downs. It's gonna feel good one day, it's gonna feel terrible the next, and so on and so forth. But I just say, lean on the people around you that support you. Understand that it's a process. You're not gonna get better overnight. And once the time comes, I'm trying to get this drill list in my head right now, just going out there and trusting the work you put in, and understanding that it's fixed. Like, it's fixed.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, just like I said, trust the work you put in and the trainers or whatever. I'm not sure what y'all situation is at the high school or his rehab situation, but just trusting, the time you put into getting back out there. And I'm sure before he's able to get back out there, a doctor will clear him. He'll be cleared by somebody. So they're not clearing you for no reason. Like, if they didn't feel like you were ready to go, then you wouldn't be out there. So just trust that, and just try to go out there and not think about it as best you can. I mean, it's easier said than done, obviously, but that's what you got to force yourself to do.
Yeah, that's awesome, and that's good too. As far as I think younger kids need to hear that. If you are 14, 15, or even if you're 20, 21, still playing in college too, I think that's the right mindset moving forward.
Yeah,
switching gears here, I want to get it more of on a positive note. Stephon Gilmore, Malcolm Butler, Devin McCourty, all guys that you have played with, getting into the league, all pretty much established guys. No, Butler's not there anymore, but what have you learned from these guys stepping into the league? Have they kind of called you and made you a better NFL player, or what's the situation with those guys as far as when you first stepped in, it made you a better player?
I mean, first and foremost, all three of those guys are amazing players, and I'm blessed to have opportunity to play with all three of them. And, a guy that I kind of been watching since I've been in the league is Devin McCourty. first off, great guy, you know, regardless of what he does on the field, great guy. And immediately when I got in the locker room, you know, obviously I had knew of Devin, even from his Rutgers days, and just knew how great of a player he was, and getting a chance to be around that firsthand and just seeing how he worked and how he consistently, you know, went about his business day in and day out. You can't help but, you know, try to take nicks and knacks here from him and try to put him in your game regardless. I mean, we play two different positions, but I mean, it's still on the defensive side of the ball. So just seeing how he, you know, dissects plays on offense and how he knows the game was definitely intriguing to me because I consider myself a student of the game as well.
Sure. Yep.
And I mean, our lockers are right next to each other. A lot of people don't know that. So like he was one of those guys when I was going through my tough times that, you know, always, you know, kept a positive bug in my ear, you know, let me know that, you know, I wasn't the first one going through something like this. And like, just that it's going to be all right. Just keep pushing and just taking it one day at a time, you know, not trying to do too much, just focusing on the little things. So, you know, I appreciate him for that. But, yeah, he's definitely a great player. And it's not hard to see why once you're around him in that type of atmosphere and why he's been so consistent for so long. And also being around Malcolm for 2 years was great. I say the one thing that sticks out about Malcolm is just his competitiveness and his fieriness on the field. Like he's quiet off the field, just like me, so I could relate to that. But what you know, when he's on the field, it's just a whole different type of demeanor and type of swagger, and that's something I admired. Just watching him for 2 years, just how he goes out there with no fear, and still plays with that chip on his shoulder that, you know, he came into the league with, you know, an undrafted guy, and just still out there with something to prove and proving that, you know, he's one of the top guys in the league and that he belonged here, which was amazing to watch. And Steph, being around him for 1 year, his locker is also on the other side of, so Devin's on my right and Steph's on my left. Two totally different personalities, which I mean, it's a million personalities in the locker room. But so it's actually been weird because last season I wasn't really around much. After I got hurt, I went home and had my surgery in Baltimore, and I was there for almost 2 months. So I didn't get really a chance to be around him during the season. But, you know, getting to know him prior in training camp and OTAs and stuff like that was good, you know, just seeing, you know, how professional he was. And like I said, another one of those guys that just comes in and does his job, doesn't say too much, and just goes out there and make plays. So I mean, being around, and it's those three guys are the ones you mentioned, but I mean, it's countless guys that I've been around the locker room that have I've stolen things from and have helped me, you know, especially during tough times, you know, try to stay positive and just keep pushing. So, I mean, I thank everybody in that locker room, and I appreciate all the guys that I've been around, especially older ones, that just have, you know, shared their knowledge and tried to help me in any way.
Very cool. You know, Cyrus, in the media, we always see, you know, people talking about, if it's the Patriots in the last 2 years, it's always the slogan, do your job. So I just wanted to ask you a little bit about, you know, is that something that's just hyped up that they always put out there? How much is that something that you guys really talk about and is preached? Just curious what your thoughts are around that.
It's definitely a real thing.
I thought it would be a real thing.
Yeah, definitely a real thing. I mean, it's probably a little bit more hyped up in the media and stuff like that. It's not like guys walking around in the hallway like, do your job. Like it's not like that. But I mean, it's just like I said when I was talking about Alabama, same thing goes here. Like it's just a standard, you know what I'm saying? It's something that they have lived by, you know, for however long, and it's when you get here, it's something that, you know, the guys in the locker room that have been here hold the newcomers to that standard, coaches, you know, players. I mean, it's like you don't want to come in and be that guy that's a distraction, or just causing confusion and not really buying into what's been going on here for years before you even step foot in the locker room. So it's just like, you know, it's kind of that saying that just reminds you that you know, you don't have to go out there and be Superman. Nobody is no stars. I mean, even though, you know what I mean, there are everybody there to, you know, do their job pretty much. And if you do your job, we'll be where we need to be, you know, at the end of a game, at the end of a season, regardless of what it is. So, I mean, it's the simplest way of saying, you know, I guess focus on the little things and just worry about being the best you can be, and we'll be a great team because of that.
All right. Sorry, I just want to ask you one last question before we jump into the gauntlet. You know, Chris asked you about Nick Saban, and, you know, why is it that you think that year in and year out, you know, Alabama is what it is? I need to ask you the same thing about Coach Belichick. Why is it? What is it about him? If you could put it into your own words, why every year the Patriots are always a contender? Of course, there's Tom Brady and the players, but what is it about the coach himself and his philosophy and approach?
I mean, I could say the same thing I said about Coach Saban, about Coach Belichick. I mean, he's been doing this probably more than 2 of my lifetimes. So, I mean, that is just the knowledge, man. You know what I'm saying? It's a guy. I mean, when you've been doing this for so long, it's not much that you haven't seen. So he prepares us, you know, like no other. And for everything, you know what I'm saying? We go into a game week and you're learning about, you know, who owned the team you're about to play, the history of ownership, the history of their coaches, where this coach came from, special teams, you know, was this coach at this team last year? What did they do at this team last year? And how does it kind of relate to what they're going to be doing against us this week? So you dissecting every little nook and cranny of each team you're about to play every single week. So, I mean, you can't help but go out there and be prepared. And I think that's the biggest thing. Like, I think Bill Belichick teams are always prepared for every situation. And you take situations like, say, the NBA Finals this year, the whole JR timeout situation, something like that. Like, I feel like that would never happen here, just because it's always drilled into your head, you know, what to do in this type of situation. All right, if this happens, what are we going to do here? What play are we going to call? Do we need to call timeout if this happens? Can you touch the ball at this time? Like, just every little thing that you wouldn't even think about until, you know, especially as a young guy, like, you're like, oh, that really is important. Like, so, I mean, I think that's the biggest factor, just, you know, how well he prepares his team, what he demands of us. I mean, the standard he holds everyone to, including himself, is second to none. So, I mean, I'd attribute that to, you know, why we have so much success.
Awesome. Well, all right. As promised, we'll get you out of here right after the gauntlet. So I hope you're ready. So we're going to hit you with some hard and fast questions here. Cyrus, if you can only have one, what's more important, the number 1-0 or the number 1D?
D, of course.
All right. And a defensive battle or a shootout?
Shootout.
All right.
Who doesn't like to see points scored? I mean, I don't like except against us. I mean,
of course, right?
Sure. Important part of that. Favorite place to eat in or around Boston?
Favorite place, definitely Nebo in North End. It's an Italian spot.
Ooh,
Yep.
it's a great spot.
Yeah.
Zone coverage or man coverage?
Man.
Most talented teammate other than yourself that you've ever played with?
Amari Cooper.
Pick six or return touchdown?
Return touchdown.
Light the place up.
Patriots teammate that gives the best pump-up speech?
Definitely Devin McCourty.
All right. And last but not least, what's most important in winning? Players or the scheme?
Players.
For sure.
Players.
Definitely.
Well, Cyrus, thank you. So sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Did you want to?
I was just gonna say that the scheme can't be effective if you ain't got good players.
Yeah, we're 100% on that. Everyone we've asked so far, players 100%. Yep.
Yeah.
I agree.
Well, Cyrus, thank you so much for taking the time with us today. We really appreciate it. A lot of incredible information. We want to make sure that everyone follows you, though. So what's the best place for people to keep up with what you're doing?
I mean, I'm pretty much only on Instagram. So it's Cy Jones Jr. On Instagram, CYJONESJR. Simple as that. So follow me on there.
Yeah, go follow him. Awesome.
All right. Follow him on Instagram.
Yeah.
Follow him this season on the Patriots, as I'm sure you are more than ready to get back on the field. And we, of course, wish you nothing but the absolute best.
I appreciate that, man. Appreciate y'all having me.
Thanks again,
man.
All right.